All right, so OVR Performance just released something pretty crazy at a pretty crazy price point, and it's been teased for a while. So the answer is they are releasing affordable force plates. So here you can have them at a multiple configuration, single or dual plate, and they have a built-in display just like the rest of their products with free accessories. But you know me, I like to dig a little deeper. So let's go look at their validation study. So all you have to do here is to go to their website, scroll down, and then you're able to access the study. They're going to ask you for your email, but I already did that. So let's see what they actually did to validate the study. First off, compared to their reference, and you know I love a time series data, it looks like these are very well lined up, right? So at the very beginning, this seems pretty good. So here's what they did. This is a technical validation study, or the internal validation. So my buddy JC Ditch, Dr. JC Ditch, mentioned that there's multiple kinds of validation that you can do. This is an internal validation, right? So it's probably something that you use to examine internally. And then there's external validation, where it's someone else outside of your organization with probably slightly different methodologies in order to see how accurate this device actually is. But here's their setup. They basically have two movement tasks that they are comparing to. One is a counter movement jump, where they are stacking their plates on top of Hawking Dynamics plates. So this is not exactly, and they do acknowledge that in their own writing, that this is not exactly compared to lab-based in-ground 3 triaxial force plates, but rather an alternative, very likely more expensive commercial-grade product. And then they have the same setup for the isometric mid-thigh pull. So what's nice about this is they're getting one kind of dynamic movement and the other kind of a strength-based, longer duration force application kind of movement. And from just looking at the time series, it looks really good, right? All of these forces are pretty overlapped, and I really like the fact that they do show the time series, because those are exactly where all of these metrics come from. They are extracted from features in the time series. Similar performance for isometric mid-thigh pull, where you do see some small differences, but in terms of the actual magnitude of difference, it's really not that much. For example, if you look at the range of values for the peak force, right, you see that they're probably off by, around 13 newtons if you're adding it, and then 13 newtons is about like only a kilogram of weight. So really, this is pretty impressive. So what are some things to keep in mind when it comes to this kind of report? Here it states that this system, the OVR system, is validated against Hawkins, and the Hawkins is validated against the laboratory-grade in-ground AMTI force plates. So this agreement reported here transitively links the OVR force to the research gold standards. But if this is if for example the OVR force is slightly off from the Hawkins and the Hawkins is slightly off from the AMTI plates, then there's potential room for arguments that maybe there is some amount of difference in terms of the accuracy, but still, I want to give the OVR benefit of the doubt that it's similar at least to Hawkins, right? In that case, it is a good, viable product. And if you wanted to look more about the external validation, I would encourage you to follow Dr. JC Ditch. And he's really calling for some opportunity to do more kinds of validation work. But whenever a new exciting sports tech comes out, it's very important to at least get a sense of what kind of validation they've done, right? They've done it for CMJ, they've done it for mid-thigh pull. So, let's say if you're most interested in your RSI or DRI, Lance Brooks, then you might be able to argue, hey, this is not technically validated, not even internally, so maybe it's less suitable a movement to use the OVR plates for tracking, for example, normative values, right? If you want to still track the within subject changes, that's